A lot of Batman's villains are often used as allegories for mental illness. Harvey Dent is absolutely no different. He has a sort of split personality that often appears when he is stressed. A personality that he has tried his hardest to put back in a bottle and fight back against. He has gone to a lot of therapy. He had tried to take care of himself in his earlier years to hopefully contain the portion of himself that was deemed dangerous for his everyday life. Harvey had aspirations of being one of the best district attorneys Gotham had ever seen, to truly help clean up crime throughout the city. But unfortunately, his mental health issues were preyed upon by many of Gotham's bad actors who simply did not want to see him in any sort of position of power that may threaten their positions of power. Now, throughout different mediums, sometimes it's Rupert Thorne, other times it's just random different criminal organizations in Gotham. One time it was even the Joker. That's not really the most important part of this video. What's important is that you understand where Harvey started. And it was on one unfortunate and fateful day that Harvey would end up scarred beyond belief. Half of his body would remain charred and permanently disfigured because of the actions that were taken on the day he was kidnapped. Now, for Harvey, this led to a split in his personality. One side being who he was, Harvey Dent, the politician, the other half being who he tried his hardest to repress, that being his two-faced side. Now, Harvey is tragic in this sense, simply because it's not just the physical that gets him. It's also the mental aspect of essentially having a split personality. And no matter how much better one side may get from the other, he's almost never going to be able to remain a functioning member of society. And that's truly unfortunate. But what if you could fix what was on the outside? Would that fix potentially what's going on inside Harvey? Would enough therapy as well as plastic surgery be enough for Harvey to look at himself in the mirror and no longer see a monster, for him to finally move on with his life? It's a plotline that's been done in plenty of comics and other media, but I wanted to talk about the one time I distinctly remember it happening in a movie, and that is Batman Returns. A little bit of context for Batman Returns: the government outlawed superheroes, and so Batman has been inactive for decades. Gotham has more or less fallen into disrepair once again, with pretty much no protector, and as well, Bruce is fairly depressed and not doing much of anything. But most of his rogues gallery from his day are fairly normal at this point. They've either retired, are in mental health hospitals and getting the treatment that they need, or Joker, for example, is just completely catatonic because without Batman, there's no point for him to live. And that's exactly where we find Harvey. He just recently had plastic surgery to make both halves of his face match. He has most likely gone through decades worth of mental health treatment in trying to get him to accept that he is no longer Two-Face and that everything in his life can return back to normal. He even looks completely normal, just like he did presumably before the accident, obviously with some aging due to the fact this takes place decades in the future. He's supposed to be the example for what can happen when Batman is gone and his villains get proper mental health treatment. He is supposed to be whole once again, but he doesn't even see it that way at all. As a matter of fact, it literally takes less than a week for Harvey to jump back off the deep end. And you might be asking, well, why? And the answer is fairly simple. Even though Harvey, in reality, has both of his faces perfectly molded to look like a regular person, but Harvey doesn't see it that way in the slightest. Harvey still sees himself every time he looks in the mirror as though he is scarred. As a matter of fact, he believes both sides of his face are now permanently disfigured. At least they match at this point. That's what Harvey thinks. And that's a key hallmark of body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is something I've definitely personally struggled with when it comes to simply looking at myself in the mirror. I know a lot of people struggle with it, and I don't think this movie was trying to truly tackle body dysmorphia. As a matter of fact, Harvey is a very small part of this movie, but I think it is important that we talk about it. It is something that affects a lot of people, and it's genuinely harmful all the way down to the person's core, because no matter how much better they end up looking, how good they look, how much change, positive change that has happened in their life, people will still look at themselves. I will sometimes still look at myself and still see the imperfect version that is always present. I will always pick at my flaws, whether they be genuine or just simple nitpicks. You will always see the flaws in yourself that a majority of other people probably don't, or probably will never see. And I know personally that it has done a lot of harm to my mental health when I sit around and I poke at these insecurities, as I constantly try to find something to fix, when sometimes there isn't anything to fix. There isn't really any higher to go. Sometimes it is truly important to take a moment and take a step back and look at where you were and compare it to where you are now, without trying to compare yourself, for example, like Harvey does, to other people. And unfortunately for Harvey, he's never going to be as perfect as he wants to be, and he let his own dysmorphia shape his reality. And unfortunately, that caused him to go back to a life of crime, as he believed the entire world was just laughing at him.
I played along as I could, while you and the docs had your joke. You got everyone to smile and keep their lunches down when they looked at me, pretending I looked normal. You think? Cut it out. Just look at me and have your laugh. Get it over with. At least both sides match now, right? Look at me and have your laugh.
We live in a self-improvement culture. We're always chasing to improve one bit or another bit of our lives. It is constant, that chase, that want to improve. But sometimes it can definitely be self-destructive. I see it all the time in myself. I might look in the mirror and just think, holy shit, I look absolutely terrible, even though I know I'm getting healthier than I was just a few weeks ago, rather than where I am right now. But sometimes it's really hard to look at it that way, and instead you just look at yourself, and you might even compare yourself to other people, whether it's the way you look, your status in life. I'm not saying that you should never try to improve where you are, but sometimes you should take a step back and truly look at how far you've come. Because I think a lot of the problems I have, I can't speak on other people's problems when it comes to body dysmorphia, is that I look around and I might look at my friends, my family members, even other people online, and I want to look that way. I want to be a certain way. I want to be healthier, right? But I'm just not there yet, and it's frustrating for me. It just makes me honestly want to give up and not really care anymore, because I don't see the change when I look in the mirror. But let me be the first person to tell you, if you haven't heard this in a while or even at all, the change is there, and you might not be able to see it every single day, but you are slowly making changes, and you are most likely slowly improving. And I hope somebody else will tell you that, because it's just nice to hear, in all honesty. So sometimes just take a look back at where you were and compare it to where you are now, and hopefully you'll see things have improved or have at least gotten better. I do that a lot with this YouTube channel. It helps me keep a clear mind on where I am as a content creator, especially if a video just doesn't do well, for example. That also just helps me get a point of reference to say, well, it might not have been doing well for my current standards, but look at how far I came from previous. And unfortunately, a character like Two-Face is never going to look back and really think about any of these things. He's so sole focused on where he is currently, he's never going to be able to look back. And part of that is just truly mental illness. And if you are suffering from that, I would genuinely ask that you seek some sort of help, whether that's a trusted family member, a trusted friend, anyone, because you can't just fight it all by yourself. But you also can't just expect the help to come out of nowhere. You have to ask and you have to advocate for yourself. And I think that was the hardest part personally for me. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, you must have at this point realized that I'm not really doing a whole lot of talking about Harvey Dent. I have more videos in the future planned on this character. Instead, I really wanted to use Harvey as a way for me to segue into speaking on mental health and body dysmorphia. It's something I've noticed particularly recently that has been bugging me a lot. It has been taking up a lot of the time that I've been thinking and I've been awake these last few weeks, especially as I get back into the gym and continue on a weight loss journey. I don't typically do videos like this as often as I used to, but sometimes for me it's nice to just have a think piece like this, using a supervillain or superhero as a sort of stand-in for the issue, for the problem that I want to talk about, because that's what a lot of superheroes and supervillains are. They are simply stand-ins for issues we see in everyday life. I think writers sometimes forget about that, and sometimes they don't remember to humanize their heroes or even their villains to an extent. I don't know, maybe I'm just rambling at this point, and maybe this video didn't really make any sense and I didn't have a point. I don't know. I just know I wanted to speak my truth and to say, if you are struggling with any of these things, just know things are getting better. You are making improvements, and I think that's the most important part. I just want to take a moment to thank you all for watching. If you've made it this far, leave a like. If you dislike the video, please leave a dislike and tell me down below. If you want to subscribe, it's free and you can always unsubscribe later. It helps out the channel a lot. As well, I do run a Patreon in which you can not only get to know me better as a creator and support my content, but you can see these videos early, unedited, and you can also join a Discord server that I just recently opened for my community. As well as if you're a part of my $5 and above tier, you get shouted out at the end of every single one of my videos. So it's about time for that. So shout out Transgers1, shout out VideoGamer75, shout out GoldenBoy420, Dakota Rawson, Donovan Gomez, and MC Bomb 27. You guys are amazing, and hope the rest of you have an absolutely fantastic day.